believe, yes, I believe you died for me on Calvary. So here I am on bended knees.
We are in session 13. We're going to talk about Proverbs. I really encourage you to read Proverbs. Highlight the word anger in Proverbs. It is all over Proverbs. The wisdom of God teaches you how to live very practically, and He knows you're going to have a lot of problems with anger. Let's review. What have we been saying? We talked about Cain and anger. Anger is a choice. We talked about Moses and anger. Anger is generational, and it's learned from parents. We talked about Jesus and anger. What did you say? Anger comes from broken relationships we need to reconcile. We looked at Samson and anger. Anger and sexual sin go together. We looked at Jonah. Jonah and anger deals with anger is about rights. We need to show mercy to people and not to judge them. Paul, we see that anger is a work of the flesh, and we need the power of the Holy Spirit to put off the old man and to put on the new man. As you read Ecclesiastes and Proverbs, that wisdom of God there in the Old Testament, which is very powerful. We've gone through both books, by the way, verse by verse. You can get the stuff online. But if you see all the stuff, he talks about fools, foolishness, foolish men. These are all words from Proverbs. Foolish women, foolish sons, chattering fools, a fool's lips, a fool's mouth, a fool's back, a fool's wrath, the hand of fools, the eyes of fools, the mouth of fools, the way of fools. Fools proclaim foolishness, the folly of fools, and the foolishness of fools. Wow. The foolishness of fools. What a statement. These are all phrases that I took from the book of Proverbs and the book of Ecclesiastes. If you look at Proverbs 26, you'll have there, it opens those 12 straight verses talking about fools, and it concludes with a verse that Peter quotes in 2 Peter. He says, as a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool repeats his folly. And anger is something that is a folly that foolish people repeat. We're Christians. We don't need to repeat anger over and over and over and over again. Listen to this verse. This is really a convicting verse. I don't know, it is to me. Ecclesiastes 7 verse 9, the wisest man who ever lived says, do not be hasty in your spirit to be angry, for anger rests in the bosom of fools. Wow. Anger is what foolish people do. The CEV says only fools get angry quickly. The NLT says control your temper, for anger labels you a fool. Wow. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want somebody sticking a label on me saying, here's a fool. He's always getting angry. Let's go quickly here to Proverbs 14 and verse 17. And let's talk about the short nose. Who here has a short nose? Does anybody have a short nose? If you have a short nose, raise your hand. Does anybody have a short nose? All those people that raise their hand have anger issues. I'm amazed. Proverbs 14 verse 17 says, a quick-tempered man, an angry man, acts how? Foolishly. And a man of wicked intentions is hated. The word there for quick-tempered means short-nosed. It's somebody who has a short nose. In other words, it's like I have that bomb. You see that bomb? If you have a long fuse like that, you can light it, and it takes, a little while to get over there and go over there and explode. A short-nosed person has a little thing that short. You light it like that, and you before you get away, it's already blowing up in your face. So in the Hebrew language, it uses this metaphor of a person who has a short nose. In other words, the way they breathe, they're already... That's what it's saying. This is the quick-tempered person. Right away, they're snappy. They're touchy. They get angry really fast. And he says, you know what? When you do this, and you guys all know this, we've all done this, I've done this. When you're angry, you do foolish things. you're acting like a fool. You start yelling and you start throwing things. It reminds me of another friend I had. Oh, Jesus. You guys need to pray for me after the service. I keep picking the wrong people to be my friends. Hey, you know what's scary is you guys are my friends. So I got a call a few years ago, and it was one of those calls that just, I don't like getting those kinds of calls. And it was a lady, and she was crying. She was in great distress. She was scared. That's what I noticed right away. She was scared. She goes, you got to get over here right now. You got to get over here right now. I'm outside. So I said, where are you? They were coming to our church here. And so she told me where she was. They lived over near where the VA hospital is. And so I drove over there as fast as I could. And I saw her. Oh, it was awful to see, just like shaking outside of the apartment. And I go, where's your husband? He goes, he's in there. And I said, and I thought I thought something's really gone down wrong here. So I went inside and I saw him sitting there, and he had his legs out and he was just sitting like that. He wasn't drunk or anything. He was just like, I really blew it again this time. I said, well, what's going on? And so he began to tell me he was so angry with his wife. And here's where this relationship had gone. They had only been married a few months. And they were a little bit older. He was getting porcelain plates from the kitchen. And whenever he wanted to shut her down, he would throw them right over her head while she was sitting on the couch, and the porcelain plates would smash on the back wall. He was a Christian believer, was in our church for many years. That's how he would shut her down. He goes, you blankety, and he would throw the dish, smash it behind her. That's how he controlled her with his anger. While I was talking to him, she snuck in and went into the room, and I looked over to see what she was doing. She was packing all of her bags, and she walked out, and that was the end of that marriage. She just told me later, I just can't stay here. I don't feel safe. And this man, it was just a really bad situation. You know, the love chapter, 1 Corinthians 13:5 says, love is not easily angered. It's not touchy. It's not touchy. We're not touchy people. Everything bothers us. We say one little thing and you have to go off. It's like this bomb getting ready to go off. Colossians 3:19 says, husbands, love your wives. And I love this translation. It says, never treat them harshly. Some of you ladies say amen. Amen. That's not what we're called to do, to treat our wives harshly or push them around, and certainly not to touch them. You should never have to touch your wife, ever, ever, ever have to hit your wife or anything like that. You've just totally lost control. We can't do that. Proverbs 15:1, look down here, Proverbs 15:1. Perhaps one of the most famous verses on anger in the whole Bible here is in Proverbs. A soft answer turns away wrath, turns away anger. But a harsh word stirs it up. The more you keep egging them on, the more you keep adding fuel to the fire, it just keeps stirring up anger. That's what it does. Proverbs 25, verse 15 says, through patience a ruler can be persuaded, and a gentle tongue can break a bone. You know how hard it is to break a bone? I mean, bones are hard to break. And it says, but a gentle tongue can break somebody. And there's a verse in Ecclesiastes that says almost the same thing. If you just remain calm, if the king or the ruler gets out of hand and he gets angry, just remain calm and you'll be able to break it. You won't get hurt. You guys remember what happened on April 4th, 1968? April 4th, 1968. This picture is actually from my camera. My wife and I went to Memphis, and we went to the Lorraine Hotel. So the hotel is exactly the way it was from 1968. That car that was there parked that day is still there. That's the car. It's a Cadillac vehicle, and he was up there in that apartment, that hotel room 306. They put a little wreath in front of it. He was shot. You can see the building where James Earl Ray shot and killed Martin Luther King there from that building next to him. And this hotel has now been turned into a civil rights museum. It's actually a museum. And you can go in on one side where the office used to be, and it's a big historical thing. So a lot of people go there, called the Lorraine Motel. Do you remember what happened? There was riots broke out all over the United States. Over 150 cities. There was fires. People were enraged. People got out of control. There's one city where nothing happened. A large city. And you would be surprised when I tell you it was the city of Chicago. There was no riots that night. Later on there was some, but not that night. Everybody went home. And you know what happened? You guys can see the speech online. Robert Kennedy spoke. And he spoke in a soft, calm voice. He says, put down the sign. I have terrible news to tell you. And he was just speaking in a very low tone. And he announced to this whole crowd, Martin Luther King has been assassinated tonight. And what he said was, he goes, I know some of you from the black community may be very upset because it looks more than likely that a white person did this. And it's interesting what he said next. He goes, I also had someone that I lost, which was his brother, and a white man killed him. And he said it so calmly, so gently. And I'm not any kind of political supporter or anything for Robert Kennedy. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But he answered with a calm voice. And he was totally, and like everybody else there was calm. And it's like, wait a minute, Martin Luther King just got assassinated. And everybody was just calm. They few yells when he first said it, but there was no riots in Chicago that night. There was none. Everybody went home. It was an amazing thing. May you remember that a soft answer turns away wrath. But harsh words. He could have said some very hard things. These Proverbs tell us, an angry man stirs up dissension, and a hot-tempered one commits many sins. Mockers stir up a city, but wise men turn away anger. We should be people that turn away anger. As Christians, we know the Lord. In situations within our family and work, we should be in there to turn away anger and be what I told the Teen Challenge crowd, be peacemakers, not troublemakers. We're called to be peacemakers. Here in this 15th chapter and verse 18, it says, a wrathful man stirs up strife, but he who is slow to anger allays contention. Jesus called us truly to be peacemakers, not troublemakers. Proverbs 30 verse 33 says, for as churning the milk produces butter, and as twisting the nose produces blood, so stirring up anger produces strife. Do you see all that language of those words in Proverbs? Stirs up, stirs up, stirs up, stirs up. We see it again in this one. You're stirring up. It's going to stir up strife. If you go the way of anger, you're going to end up in a lot of problems and fighting and arguing. All right, let's stop right there, and we're going to go.
You give me strength to run the race with my hands in head, lifted high. Oh,